Well, good morning. I'm ABC 10's meteorologist Tracy Humphrey, and this is today's show of Three Moms and a Dad. Here's my dad over here. This is Rob Carlmark. We are here this morning. We have a couple of different players. We're going to introduce them to you in just a few moments, but in the meantime, we're going to start things off with a clip. Take a look.
Somebody has like a different kind of skin color. If they're their friend, you always should be friends. So like I have tons of friends that are black and I'm white.
Well, today is a topic that is a little difficult to talk about. So it has to do with, did you talk to your children about race? And if so, when? How did you have the discussion? When did you decide you wanted to have it? So let's kind of set up our players for today. Of course, we have Rob Carlmark, who's our extraordinaire in the morning.
As we started the show, I was, of course, fiddling with my phone because I wanted to share it on my page. Because, look, this is an important subject.
Yeah.
And, there's all sorts of stuff that we've covered. We've covered diapers and pacifiers and the daily thing. But you know what? At some point, kids get older. Yeah. They look around, they notice things, and it's our role, even if it is uncomfortable or we don't do it all the time, to all of a sudden, you know what? They want to know everything about the world, and race does come into it. So I've got 3 kids, 5, 2, and 0, and, well, plus 0 plus a few months. So,
okay.
yeah, my name's Rob.
Okay, so Tracy Humphrey, I have one daughter, Julian. She turned 7 just today. We have our guest today. We have 2 different guests. We have Sumati, who's been with us before, and we have our very own TC Newman. So Sumati, tell us a little bit about your family dynamic, and then we'll introduce TC.
As she told, my name is Sumati. I have 2 boys, 8 and 14, and my boy just turned 8 yesterday.
Oh,
so,
congratulations, birthdays. Yeah.
And so I was born and raised in India, so was my husband, but my sons were born here. So we've been staying in California for the last 11 years.
Okay. All right. We'll talk a little bit, dig in a little bit about your experiences here. TC is filling in for Brittany, who's normally here. She fell under the weather just as of 10 minutes ago, so she is a last-minute fill-in. She will tell you she's not a mom, but she does have godchildren, and she had a lot of different things she wanted to share today that we thought would be helpful. So
I have 6 godchildren. A lot of little people in my life who I love, and I love being a authority figure for them. I get to be that love and the auntie who's fun. But I realized because all of my godchildren are of a different nationality than I am, I get to be that sometimes the only brown person they see. And I get to have conversations with them that I'm sure are probably harder for their parents to have. So I feel like I have a bit of say on this topic at least.
Okay.
Right. The show's 3 moms and a dad, but just because you don't have children of your own doesn't exclude you from having experiences and opinions about it and interactions and teaching young people about the subject. It really does matter.
Good job, Rob. I agree with that. So let's just circle
back.
back.
Throw that in.
Right?
Thank you.
When did you start talking to your kids about race? So we want to say it is important for parents to talk to their kids about different cultures they may not normally see and use books or other materials to show them. Experts also say don't wait for kids to bring it up. So we showed you the clip off the top. Those are clips from a CNN special that aired a few years back where black and white kids were pulled aside and asked specifically questions about race. So here's where I dive in. My daughter, 7, well, she was 6 last year. I went to her lunchroom. And so we're in Newcastle, very homogenized. She is the only little brown person. So when I come in, I'm the only dark brown person. She's biracial. So I come in, and so we're leaving, and her little friend says to me, why is it that your skin color and Julian's skin color is different from the rest of us? Honest question, right? 6 years old, and I completely was like, oh my gosh, this is a real deal question. And this is someone else's child. So I don't want to put my belief system on you.
Right.
So I answered it knee jerk. Of course, I thought about it afterwards and said, well, God makes us all different. Some of us are different colors. Some of us are different sizes. We have different hair. And the reason why we're all different is because each one of us is special. And that's what makes us special. And she said, okay. She walked off. So I ran to the teacher and said, okay, I've totally put religion on this child. I've told her all my beliefs. I don't even know if her parents believe in
There comes in the mom guilt. You're just trying to do the right thing. Was that the right thing? I don't know.
Exactly. And then I said to Jules later, I said, hey, did you hear what Mom said to your friend Taylor? And she said, yeah. I said, what'd you think about it? She said, Mom, everybody knows that. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm overthinking it. So for me, with a daughter who has a white father and a black mother, I wonder, when do I talk to her about race? I haven't really. And I really don't know how to get into it, to be honest. So that's why I'm here today, and I love this conversation because I need a little help.
Yeah. And your particular situation is not unique, but it does add a different layer of complexity because as she gets older, how does she identify?
I don't know.
And we don't know because it's up to the kids in some cases, right?
Some kids feel more black, some feel white, and some feel like, why do I have to choose?
Right.
I'm both. I shouldn't have to. But
Exactly.
society sometimes dictates you have to pick a box.
Right.
So yeah. What about you guys?
For me, we've been very fortunate. Been staying in Thomas, which is one of the diverse communities in California. So my kids haven't experienced this, but I have. So I wanted to make sure that they understand that if this something happens, so what are they going to say or how are they going to react? So we did a very silly experiment at home.
What'd you do?
We got eggs, a brown egg and a white egg. And then I told my 4-year-old when he was starting preschool, because that is when you start figuring out the colors and everything. I'm like, okay, let's see, what is the color? And he says, okay, this is brown, this is white. I said, okay, they are different, right? So what do we do now? So we break the eggs and see what do we have inside.
Oh, I like
and
it.
they were same. So
Good.
that is how we made him understand. And then we were like Sesame Street fans. So yeah, it looks like we are all different and we are all same.
Yeah.
So that's how we did, but they haven't experienced anything as of now. And we have in the schools over there, I've seen in Thomas, they have a lot of multicultural fest, almost all the schools,
You think
which is
that's
a
why they
great
haven't
idea. Yes.
experienced
And
anything?
then one of the greatest thing that has happened this year with the principal here in my son's school is that she came up with the idea that why not we have people coming to talk in the assemblies of different colors.
Good.
So that way the kids can realize that every color can be a leader, right? So you could have an Indian coming in to talk about something, you can have a white coming in, and you can have brown, so different colors, ethnicities to talk about the kids, to talk to kids about their culture or anything. So I think
But you
that
have to
will
have
help.
a game plan, right? You have to strategically decide what you're going to do to try to expose children, I think, early on, so they don't have a preconceived notion about anything or anyone. And TC had a really cute story. Tell us your story.
Yes. My oldest godchild is Logan. He's now 11. When he was around 4, I was doing my makeup in the bathroom. The door was open, and he bounced in, and he's like, "Well, Auntie, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm doing my makeup." And he's like, "Well, why is it brown?" And he was like, "Oh boy, his mother is not here. His father is not here. How am I going to broach this with him?" And I said, "Well, your auntie's skin is brown." And I should preface, he is blonde hair, blue eyed, like really white. And so he looked at his arm, and he's looking at his wrist, and he's really trying to grapple with this. And he goes, "But Auntie, I'm pink. And you're
And
brown."
how old was he again?
He was about 4.
4, okay.
And I said, "Yes," and I'm watching like the wheels in his head turn. And he goes, "Auntie, did you know you are brown, like Doc McStuffins?" And I said, yeah, I am. And he goes, "Okay, love you, bye." Bounces out the room. Like
He's done.
it was, all you had to do was explain it to him. And the fact that I was the same color as Doc McStuffins, his favorite Nickelodeon character, I mean, that was the coolest thing
golden.
ever.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But at around that age, they seem to notice the differences because I have another goddaughter, and there are lots of them. And I gotta read this text to you. This is from her mother. She just turned 4. This was from a couple days ago. It says, "Your niece just asked me when her skin was going to turn dark like Janaya, a girl at school, or her auntie. And then she said, 'Can you just spray paint me or something?'" And I said, "Oh, I love her." And her quote was, "Because brown is the prettiest color."
Aww.
She just went, "Oh, these are people I love. I don't look like them. Let's just make this happen. You can spray paint me or something."
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think we have to address it then or even before then to notice, okay, yeah, we look a little different,
Yes.
but we're all the
We're
same
same,
inside.
same.
So what about you, Rob?
I'll get to my story in a second. I do want to point out, this is on Facebook Live, this is on YouTube.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
and we read these comments. So this is a show this is happening now, and our ideas and opinions and contributions to this discussion is not just the 4 of us; it's you too.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up what Amber said. We spoke to our kids numerous times since they were very young. It's very important for them to know that everyone is equal. We've got Jesse says, all you have to do is make your children realize that we're humans and that color, race, religions, and everything else just make us different and just as beautiful. And we've got Mickey, who says, all kids are grown up, and while growing up, we moved several times in different diversified states. They lived and learned how to be socially friendly with everyone. We've got Amy, we've got James. We'll get back to your comments a little bit later on, but it's such a big, broad topic. And I think in the beginning, it's easy on that sort of surface level for the young kids, which is how it starts. You know, they're learning their colors, and then they are equating, you know, I know what blue, orange, red, and all that, and then, okay, now we're all different here, so what's going on there? Okay, good. That's all that I need to know. But it's sort of like those, then the next step, when they go to school, and it's a little bit different, because then you're not really talking about race as a color, as a sort of experience and identity and all of these other things. And I got to be honest with you, this is something that I have not gone through yet, but as a human, you know, I'm a white guy from suburbia. That's how I grew up. And my personal experience is, I think, what a lot of people go through in life. You start off knowing a little bit and assuming a lot, and then you have these just to your core moments where you realize, wait a second, it's all different now. And what's, I think, important about talking to kids about this is that this is something that changes over time for yourself as well. So you can't have one conversation with your kids. You need to have a continuing, evolving, deepening conversation as you are learning more, or maybe your viewpoints change over time.
Got you.
I think that that's really important, because that's at least my plan for right now, is we can talk about colors for your skin, but there's a whole other part of it too that becomes much more difficult. That's why I'm happy with where we are right now.
Okay, so I just want to say, I feel like we're on surface level now. We're all kumbaya, right? So now let's play another clip.
It would be as easy to ask your mom to have someone over who's the same skin color and someone over who's a different skin color?
Yeah, that might be hard.
What about it might be hard?
Because all my people in my family are white, and not mostly people that my mom knows and dad knows are black or brown.
If you have the same skin, you can play together, but if you don't have the same skin, you can't play together.
Yeah. Can you imagine as a parent, because now you know it's different now. I thought we talked about it. Where's this all coming from? It's coming from school. Who? Bobby's parents? Let's talk to Bobby's parents. So we've got Wendy here, and perfectly in tune with what now we're talking about, that the years after they first sort of discover the surface level stuff. Wendy M says, hate is taught. I don't like diving that deep into it because I don't even want to introduce the notion of hate. Kids would never think to hate or give a person another skin tone a second look if no one ever told them to. And that's really kind of, you know, as we are, parents are our kids' world till 4 or 5, and then we've got to share our kids with the world, and they've got to grow up and learn. And that's when it becomes a much more complicated discussion.
It does. So Mason here, who's our floor director, you may have to come in and let TC's microphone pick you up.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your experience.
So I believe I have a bit of a unique perspective. My first friend was black. My second friend was black. My third friend
You might
was
have
black.
to come in a little more so you can see.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hi, guys.
There you go. This is Mason.
I'm Mason.
Yeah.
But I believe I have a unique perspective on this. You know, what Wendy said right there is exactly what I was thinking. Hate is taught. You're not born racist. You're taught that. And I was not raised to notice the differences in just something as simple as skin tone. So I was raised with many black friends and looking at them as people. And the first time that I realized racism exists is the first time that I saw it in real life. White kid calling a black kid the nasty word.
And how old were you?
And I was about 6 or 7.
Wow, that's young.
I came home and I asked my mom, why did this person not want to be around this person?
And you don't know, at 6 or 7, you don't know the whole history.
No.
You don't have the whole context, the weight of an experience with that sort of situation. But you probably felt in the moment, there's something going on
like
here.
he doesn't know what the word means.
Right,
you just knew the emotion that it evoked when he gave it, so you knew it was a negative term.
Right.
When I got home, I had to have that hard conversation with my mom. I asked her, why did he say that to this person? You know, and I wish more people were like that.
Yeah, I had those discussions. So thank you, first of all,
Yeah,
Mason, for
absolutely.
sharing that. So this is what I'm thinking, and this is really where I'm, yeah. This
It's
is
only
where
the internet.
really
Just the
loud.
internet.
Just the internet.
Yeah.
This is where I'm on the fence. So, do you arm your child ahead of time, or do you wait for an experience and then let them come home and then you address it? That's where I'm on the fence, because 6 seems young to me, but he's just said that's what happened as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So what do you do for your child? You don't want your child to hurt.
I think the first time I ever heard that word, I was probably 1st or 2nd grade. A kid was 5th grade because it was elementary school. I remember he was big. That's all I remember. And that I wanted to get on a slide, and he said, "No, you N-word." And all I knew was that just didn't feel right. I'd never heard the word. I had no idea what it meant. I went to the playground monitor, and her face just drained
That's
the
how you
color.
knew.
And I went, "Oh, that really was a bad word. I know it was." And then all I know is I'm being brought to the principal's office, and so is this other kid. And then the principal is telling me, "We do not tolerate racism here, and don't you worry, you'll never have to deal with that again." And I was like,
What's happening?
"What's racism? What does that mean?"
Yeah, I mean,
But
that's
if
a
my
lot.
mom
when
and
you're
dad
that
had
young.
said something to me beforehand,
Yeah.
sometimes people aren't friendly. Sometimes they don't want to play with you on the playground. And sometimes it has to do with the color of your skin. Might have been a little more prepared for it.
So you wished your parents had said something?
For me as a parent, I think I always wanted them always wanted to talk to them before they experience. And it's very fortunate they haven't experienced, but it was nice to share beforehand and talk to them beforehand.
And what age did you choose to share with
4.
4. Now that's
Yes,
see, that
because
seems
that is
young.
when they were talking about colors, and
Right.
that is when we had moved, and that is what we had experienced. I'm like, okay, let's not have that
Right.
prejudice in their hearts right now.
Right.
So let's just do that.
But we got a lot of comments with people saying, "I haven't talked about it with my kids. We treat everyone the same. We don't feel the need to talk to our children about race because we love everyone equally." And that's a lot of stance that a lot of families take. So if you haven't talked to your child about it, and your child goes to school and they learn from other children as much as they learn from parents, and they overhear Billy say something about someone else, then to me, it seems like you haven't given your child, they don't have anything to counter that with. Now all they have is what their friends are saying. And so how do you know they don't then assume that same position?
I think as a parent, if we are guiding them and we are telling them, they are able to fill into their brains. Otherwise, if we leave that open, the negative can come in and that stays in their brain. So I think so it is really nice of parents or teachers or guardians who they are with, they should have an open talk rather than they get something which they don't, and then like you said, you assume you know little and then you start assuming more,
Right.
and that's how you build up.
Right. Let me bring in a comment here from someone named Crispy, and I think this is sort of broadening it out a little bit. So he said this is a great topic to cover with kids as soon as possible. To your point, but I'd say don't just limit it to talk. Socialize your kids with kids of other races as early and as much as you can. Kids are born bigoted; they learn it, and I think that this is sort of like next level stuff. One of the experiences that a lot of parents have at the playground is like at your house you control everything, brothers, sisters, we don't hit, we don't do that, and then you go to the playground, it's like, okay, it's different now. And then there's a lot of parents that want to get in there and kind of like organize and manage the whole situation, and this kid's being too rough, and and you like say things really loud. We don't play like that in our family.
Right.
Kid in the in the yellow shirt, dad's on his phone.
Right.
But anyway, but then there's a moment a lot of parents have where you're like, wait a second, these kids need to figure it out. So maybe, perhaps, to this point, maybe some of the understanding of race and learning that and really believing that themselves rather than being told, hey, we're all the same, blah, blah, blah. If they're all on the playground having a good time and they're socializing and they're doing soccer together and they're doing band or they're doing, dance or what have you, then it's just, it's an experience. It's not, it really, they may not think that because you told it to them. They may think that because that's their experience. So maybe it's just as easy as just here, interact and learn yourself.
Okay, so here's the thing. What if you're interacting and you see your child, like I've seen my daughter going up to other kids asking them if they want to play. and they don't even acknowledge her. Some look, some don't look. And then once she's gone to the fourth or fifth person, and they're all white people, or white kids. Oh, do you want to play? And they blow her off. I'm immediately thinking, are they blowing her off because they don't know her, or are they blowing her off because she's a little black girl? Do I give her some armor to say, not everybody wants to play. It's okay sometimes. And that's what I say. But in my head, I'm thinking, wow, I need to bring in some more black kids. Like I need to give her an opportunity for someone to say, I want to play with you, because I immediately overthought that. And I said, am I doing that because I'm a minority parent? Because I think minority parents do want to immediately shield their children more so than white parents, because you're coming from a completely different position. So that is leading us to our next clip.
We got one more clip coming.
It's coming.
Producer was talking about the next step, so I think they didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry.
American parents are very early on preparing their children for the world of diversity and also for the world of potential discrimination. In contrast, what we find is that a lot of white parents, they sort of have this view that if you talk about race, you are creating the problem. And what we're finding is that children are aware of race very early.
About that. Well, you're our only white person here, Rob. What do you think? No pressure. What do you think?
Okay, let me take this opportunity to speak for all white people across the world.
Just kidding.
Well, I'm going to generalize here about a lot of the comments that I've read and what I'm reading here, and I'll get to specific comments as well. I am seeing a lot of general comments like, "What we don't talk about it because it's not an issue. We brought it up. We're all different. Everyone loves each other. It's all good."
Yeah.
And I think that that's an easy way of looking at it, and maybe that's the case. But like I'm talking about, they get older and situations just show up, and I would say that in our household, they're young. It is not brought up as a topic of discussion because just not a lot of things are, to be honest. It's more like just getting through the day, to be honest with you. Like put away your toys. It might be the deepest we get some days. But in her classroom, it's extremely diverse. All of her friends are of all genders and races and backgrounds, and definitely there's lots of biracial kids in her class, which is wonderful. But going forward, my approach personally is I'm there for it. I kind of want to get ahead of this myself, because taking a look at just her particular school and then the school that my son's going to go into, it's so diverse. This needs to be discussed. This needs to be talked about, because part of the reasons why we wanted her to go there is because we find that pretty interesting. We find that as a net positive.
I do too.
Because have you spent time in the real world? We need to interact with everybody if we want to be successful and have a full, fulfilling life.
Gotcha.
You can't just go and hole up and just only interact with your culture because that's all you're going to know. And I know this because I lived in different parts of the country.
Got you.
And that's a big part of it. I would say there's one thing that's important. People say travel, broaden your horizons, live in different live in different towns, live in different different areas. I lived in Mississippi, deep Mississippi. I saw a lot of that. I lived in purely homogenous other areas in the north, and I've also lived in other places that are completely diverse. I like to think that all of a sudden that makes me so much more knowing, but it doesn't, because remember where I grew up. So it's a learning process, and instead of talking about me, since this is about kids, I want to take that approach as early as I can, with as many interactions as I can, and maybe I might even provoke a conversation just because I feel like this is so important, and this is so right now, and so the future, that this is part of. Besides putting away your toys, this is something that's going to help them.
But here's the thing: my parents. I'm sorry, my parents never spoke to me about race. Did your parents? Did any of you guys?
I mean, we grew up in India, so that was a different story. So it's just as a parent, we have to do it. But I think what I was coming to Rob's point is that as a parent, we have to be a role model. So just saying and talking to race might not give an impact on them, but I think we should model a behavior having a diverse culture of friends ourselves, so that they can go and check the culture that we are embracing as friends, so they can also embrace, and they can also see, and they can see, we all are together. We all celebrate everything.
Right.
So I think as a parent, we should, how this we can model is by making ourselves comfortable amongst the diverse community as well.
Right.
Got you. I'm sorry.
True.
Go ahead. Do you want to add, TC?
There's so many cultural experiences that you can have with your kids.
Yes.
Like, it should not be weird for a family of another culture to. A couple of weeks ago was the Indian Cultural Festival. This weekend is the Festival de la Isla from the Puerto Rican Festival. Take your kids. It's okay if you're the only family that sticks out. But hey,
important.
it's just families. And that's, I think, the best way to look at it. But something you did mention, Rob, you talked about growing and changing the conversation as these kids grow up. I will never forget my brother, who is a couple of years younger than me, on the football team in high school. Like 5 of the guys were following each other. They were driving to get to a practice at a different area. My brother's vehicle was the only one pulled over. All of the other cars, they let them go. They were all speeding. So all of the football players pulled over, though, which I thought was interesting.
nice.
It was great. But they watched how that cop talked to my brother. And it caused such a ripple in their team because we grew up in a very conservative area where we were the only black family. My dad talked to us about race by saying, you guys may need to be the educators for other people. And I remember answering him and saying, but I don't want to be a teacher when I grow up. But we had to educate others. And because it was such a thing, how come Terrence's car was the only one that got pulled over? They had a team meeting, and they let my brother and my parents kind of lead the meeting. So while you may not want to talk to your kids about race, talking about other races' experiences is important.
Well, that's why it's important for your children to have friends of different cultures, because just by being around them, you might be privy to how they're treated differently from you, and that in itself is a learning experience. And when I was at my daughter's school, and when the 6-year-old asked, I realized at that moment, I'm walking in that lunchroom and I'm the only black adult there. I sat down and I didn't think about it. I bet you I'm the only black person that's ever sat down at their table and ate next to them. It never dawned on me until she said, why's your skin color? And I was like, oh my gosh, she's never sat down with a black person. She's probably never seen a black person other than at the grocery store or something. And so then I thought, oh my gosh, we really need to get exposed. That's immediately what I thought. And so what I do is, my daughter's pediatrician is an Asian male. I make sure whenever we go to San Francisco, we go to Chinatown. Like, I'm trying to get to Oakland. I'm trying to put all these colors in front of her. So she realizes there are a lot of different colors out there. But the thing is, you don't know what other people are exposing their children to or not. And it will trickle to your child in some way, shape, or form, unfortunately.
Let's get in a couple more comments before we're getting toward the end here. And we see your comments. We will get back in here and comment back to you individually, because this is, hey, this is the theme. It's an ongoing conversation. It's not just 30 minutes. So we're going to have Kathy S. next, saying, more or less the same thing. Actually, it never came up. I taught them we're all the same. Great place to start. I mean, if you really believe that and that's what you want to project to your kids and teach them that, start there, because that's how you start the conversation. We got Brooke S. From day one, my child is mixed. So she needs to know who she is and how to answer questions about her race. This is a conversation every parent should have with their kids, no matter their race. And then I want to get to Jane W. I never talked about race. We accepted everyone. Only racists talk about race.
Wow.
We've got Deanna L. When they were about 4 to 5, we're hearing that a lot. That seems to be like the age of consciousness. So they want to know they want to know about unicorns. They want to know about why can't they fly. They want to know why people are different colors. I mean, it's all open. Let's just get it all done and over with. These are my burning questions. I need to know about it. I'm 4 or 5. And then we've got Nicole G. Never. We taught our kids. We treat everyone with kindness and respect. Let me get to one more online, just so
these are great comments, Rob.
Oh yeah. Here we go. This one's from James. By talking to them in advance, you already impose or create the understanding that there is a difference. Teach them by example, and then it won't matter what they learn from society. They will follow through with what they know to be right. And that's that's a tough one, because we like to we're parents. We're supposed to be in charge, but sometimes for true beliefs to occur, it has to come from them. even if they're young. It has to start from within.
And other voices get in there.
Yes.
Whether it's television, other kids'
The
parents,
news.
babysitters, other
All
voices
these
get
YouTube
in.
channels and news.
Yeah.
You don't know what they might be listening to and picking up that is not
And
your
they're
values.
sponges. They get it all. So we are coming toward the tail end. So I want to give everyone an opportunity to kind of share their final thoughts on today's discussion. Anything that you're now doing differently with your family that you started out doing, you know, something in the beginning and then you swerved. Anything you guys want to share?
I think race is a beautiful thing. We've got such, I mean, our diversity is amazing. And if we,
Yeah. Thank you, Mason.
Mason said life is beautiful with color.
It is.
I think if we talk about it like a positive thing, then that's so important. Hey, isn't that exciting? Yeah, she's got great brown skin and you have beautiful blonde hair and you have all of these wonderful things that make us who we are. And talk about it early, talk about it often, expose your kids to different culture and buy them toys and books of different cultures. What they read and have in their hands means a lot.
It does,
Yes,
right?
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Because in a child's world, there's you and there's books and TV. And so that, if you want to talk about outside influences, that really does change the way they see things as what's normal or not.
Yeah. I think we have to model the behavior, and that's what we try to do at our home as well, to have diverse friendships and everything, so that our kids can learn from there too. So, and we have to be very mindful of how and what we are talking as well with the kids, because they are going outside and they are talking. So how we are talking within our family as well makes a lot of difference as well.
Okay, Rob?
You know, again, just like this show is so important, and the thing that's cool is that it's live, but you can watch this back. If you heard something, you're like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." You know, talk about it, share it, show it, talk about it, because we change over time, and your kids change a lot over time. And I just feel like it's really important that things are going to happen in this world. That there's things on the news, there's things that are going to happen in your neighborhood, at your school. There are things that are going to happen. And first, take that as an opportunity to educate yourself. One of the things that's really great about working in news, I just want to say, is that it's almost always pretty diverse. It just tends to be that way. So you tend to hear, and we all like to talk and tell stories. So you get to hear, you get to listen to stories of experience and highlighting what that means. And if you're not around that, either by where you live or where you work or where you recreate, try and find yourself in some of those spots.
That's a good point.
Because these conversations are going to come up, and they will change your life for the better. And then once you know things, then that just transfers down to your kids, and they will know through you a little bit more.
Right? Well, my takeaway, and what I always share with my daughter is, in life, not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone is going to want to play with you. Not everyone is going to be kind. And you can pick and choose your friends the way other people pick and choose their friends. So if someone says to you and it's something to you and it's unkind, I always tell them to say whatevs and shake it off and we keep it moving. And so I try to do that myself, because sometimes my feelings can get hurt by how someone might treat me in a store or not acknowledge. And I just have to go, okay, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Let's just keep it moving. So my biggest thing for her was, I love you, your dad loves you, we love you. And other people, you know, they may like you, they may not. It's okay. It's all right, you know. So that was our topic for today, talking about race. Whew. I got a little nervous talking about it, right? Okay, so if you got anything else you want to share with us, you can always go to our Facebook page, put in your comments. We love to hear it. If there is a topic you think we should be talking about, you can always share that with us as well. In the meantime, I want to thank Rob, Sumity, and TC for being here today. And thank you for joining us.